Breaking it down in layman's terms, today I've got a special guest. I got the one, the only Lee Salz. Now, I've known
Hey,
It's good to see you virtually, and I got to see you face to face at Outbound twice at Outbound. And
yeah,
you know, I've read your books, read both
I do.
your last two books, Sales
You didn't.
Different,
You don't read
Sell
them, man.
Different.
You devour them, Doug. You
Yeah,
don't read them. I know how you go through them.
the video reviews are out there. In fact, Sell Different's the latest book, and if you go over to Amazon, there's two video reviews out there, Jeff Bajoric and yours truly. Selfless, shameless promotion right here. But anyway, great books. I know you've written 6 books, and we're going to talk about Sell Different, sales differentiation, speaking, and a whole lot more. But I've got to ask the question, the name of your company, break that down in layman's terms. The name of your company, you work in management consultant for selling sales architects. Let's talk about it.
Sales architects. You know, I wish I could tell you I came up with the name, that it was my brainchild. It actually wasn't. It actually came from and was inspired by one of my salespeople many years ago. Because what I always did when I built sales teams was I put together a framework to help them to be successful. I didn't micromanage them and say, memorize this script. I put together a success framework for them. And this one day, one of my salespeople, top performer, came to me and she said, you know, what I like so much about what you do is that you put a framework in place that helps me to be successful, but you leave so much room for personalization in the approach. She said, you're like an architect, where an architect builds a building, but they don't tell you what color the drapes need to be. Now, the metaphor wasn't exactly right, because an architect also doesn't tell you what color the drapes should be. But the point was that what I do is put together these sales frameworks to help salespeople win more deals at the prices that they want and leave plenty of room, because I think it's so important for them to personalize that approach.
I love it, because this is like Lee's books. If you haven't read any of Lee's books, he's a storyteller. The story behind
Doug,
the story.
Doug, there are people that didn't read my book yet. You
They're
got to
gonna
be
know
kidding
if
me.
they don't. Well, they should. And that's just what I said in the review from cover to cover. It's practical, it's tactical, but Lee's got a way of story selling his own best practices that are relatable to you, especially if you're in sales or in business today. It doesn't matter if you're necessarily, they're readable because you identify that, just like the name of your company, the story, but you use the word personalization. Especially in this virtual world we're living in today. But let's go into the fabric of that word, personalization. Sell Different is your latest book. Yeah. And you've got a chapter that's really on virtual selling, the power of virtual selling. And I think that is something that we're at right now, and personalization comes into the fabric of that. Let's talk a little bit about that chapter and how that came into be. And was that written right around the COVID time, or that content?
Well, when I submitted the book proposal to HarperCollins, there wasn't a chapter listed called virtual selling. It wasn't in the plans. And then this little thing happened. What's it called again? Oh, that's right, the pandemic. And then all of a sudden, we needed to have content to help salespeople navigate that virtual environment. And I think one of the things that you're going to see, and you're already seeing it today, as we have an opportunity to meet face to face, that companies aren't saying, you know what, let's go back to putting everyone in cars and on planes and having all of our meetings in person. Buyers have said, you know what, we kind of like this virtual thing. And companies with the salespeople have said, you know, we kind of like this virtual thing too, because buyers have said it gives much more structure and time constraint to the meeting. You know, when you meet someone in person, you chit chat for 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, and these meetings get really long. When you have a Zoom meeting, you've probably noticed this, Doug, you get right to it, right? There's not a lot of chit chat. You've scheduled 30 minutes or you scheduled 60 minutes, and it's a focused conversation. So the buying side loves it. On the sales side, they've said, you know, look at how much productivity, how much more selling time we get when we're not jumping on planes, when we're not jumping in the car for every single meeting. So what you're already seeing today is a more strategic approach where sales managers are saying, what do we need to do to get this deal? Can we do this virtually? Do we need to get someone in a car or on a plane? What do we need to do? As opposed to just saying we're always doing it this regimented way.
Well, I've got an idea for them. Sell Different. Okay, personalization.
There you go. Sell different.
'Cause- and this is where I want to take it, because we've been in this pandemic for a while, and we're doing more and more, like you alluded to, we're more inundated with more virtual meetings. We're not hopping on planes and traveling. But we're at a point now where we've got to level up our own performance when it comes to virtual selling. You outlined that in a dedicated chapter in the book. And as we talk about it, we're learning new developments, new tools. But the idea of selling different, being personalization with your stories throughout Sell Different, his latest book, you've got a lot of stories, whether it's your son going out and recruiting to different colleges or different things in that nature. That's the pivot. It's not how you, it's how you sell, not what you sell. And if you don't understand that now, you'll get that throughout his last two books, Lee, and getting the prices at the deal you want. But meaningful value, how, the price differentiation. We're going to pay higher prices for things that we really want. It's up to us to sell different and pivot that. Is that correct?
It is. And I'll give you a very recent story. My wife Sharon and I next month will be celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary.
Congrats on that.
Yeah. So I'm a smart husband. I said, okay, we need to do something significant. And my wife's engagement ring and wedding ring is too small. And I said, well, what if we did something different? We'll do something new. So we went to a jewelry designer. And my wife was she was turned off. Sharon didn't enjoy the experience. He wasn't aggressive. That wasn't the issue. But he didn't guide her in decision making. He just said, well, here's something. Here's another thing. And we actually met with this designer a couple of times. And we went nowhere. Now, when you talk about something like this, what you're looking for in your significant other is that big wow smile, like, yes, this is what I want. Never got that. Went to a different store and had a very different experience. First of all, this salesperson was getting excited with Sharon. It wasn't just, I'm trying to sell a piece of jewelry. Oh, it's your 25 years. Where did you meet? What was the proposal? There was all of this engagement that the other individual didn't have. And I'm going to refer to that person as a salesperson, even though he owned that store. And in this case, this is a woman who is a salesperson, doesn't own the store. But in both cases, they had the opportunity to make us feel special. As a matter of fact, that designer, instead of sending a note to me, sent a text to my wife saying, wanted to see if you made any decisions and if you've talked with your friend. I'm the friend. I'm the friend. In this, completely turned off, blew the deal. Had nothing to do with how pretty his jewelry was.
So that's
gorgeous.
Yeah, there's so many things.
Experience.
The experience, the sales experience. And you've said in the presentation and with sales differentiation, I remember seeing that presentation, creating that meaningful value without even having to say, without saying a word. I had to unpack that a little bit. Meaningful value without saying a word. Well, it was the experience.
It's without saying the word best. That's the word we want to stay away from. Salespeople have been conditioned to describe what they're selling as the best. And we think that we're endearing ourselves to others, moving closer to the deal. The reality is we're turning people off. Of course, you say you're the best because you're trying to sell me something. The other reason salespeople use that word best is to stand out from the competition. Like other salespeople aren't also saying that. So whenever we say best, we sound like every other salesperson calling on that individual. And it's a negative reflection. So, and the reason why that's an issue is we can't prove it. I can't prove to you that what I'm selling is the best. And most of you can't either. So why go there? All we do is tarnish the relationship unnecessarily right in the first few moments.
No, I like,
and I talk about in the first book, there's actually one person in the world, one person on the planet that can say best and have it be meaningful. And that person is your client. When your client says you're the best, that's significant. That's how you get referrals. That's why they agree to serve as a reference for you.
Okay,
on the say it is meaningless.
On that C word, client, not customer, but client. I'm gonna throw another C word is mention of referrals and customers. Being able to take your client The C word is close. Okay, we're not going to say close.
Oh, don't get me going now.
But if you're my client and I closed a deal, I'm using the C word, my objective is to continue you as a client, as a customer, for repeat business, for referrals, advocacy. So it's positioning. Don't close, but it's a continuation of many sales. One part of your book that really stood out when you talked about account and sell different. When you talked about account management is not customer service.
Yes.
We're so inundated with focusing and training on new business, getting new business. What about working with your established clients and having them be your best sales force, having them go out and sell on your behalf? You got to sell different, but you got to earn that right. I love that chapter because I think that's where we're headed right now. We've got repeat business. Elaborate a little bit. Put that in Lee Salz terms for me.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things there. There's this concept I teach called conquering accounts, and there's a chapter in Sell Different all about that. So often we look at the sexy side of selling. The exciting part of selling is bringing in that new logo, that new banner, if you will. And we bring in a little smidgen of business from that new banner, and we move on to the next one. We never go back and sell the complete solution that our company brings to bear. And there's an offense and a defense side to why we need to have a conquer account strategy. See, if all we are doing is bringing a smidgen of business and they're buying this other stuff from someone else, we're losing revenue to the competition and we're vulnerable because perhaps they take that conquer account strategy, come in and have the holistic conversation about a full solution with us rather than just a tactical one of you buying a widget.
There's so much in there to unpack as far as, building those relationships. And you had a chapter in Sell Different really about knowing your mentor from their level of influence and the level of decision-making they have. I've been there as a junior rep going in, having a meeting with a client and walking away thinking, I killed it. This was great. Come to know that person I was engaging with didn't have any influence, didn't have any decision power. There's so much, and through Lee's books, when I say they're practical and tactical, Lee unpacks on how, not just what you do, but how to execute. And that's why I love your books. And if you haven't gotten Lee's books, you got to check them out. But on that, that customer experience, being able to build on that, you've got stories and stories and stories. Is that what made you write Sales Differentiation, and then the time frame from Sales Differentiation to Sell Different? Because it's an extension of that when it comes to story experiences and selling. Can you talk a little bit about, from one book to the other, and where did one start and one stop, and what's next?
Well, I'll start at the very beginning of where this whole interest in the subject of differentiation came up. We recently lost Betty White. And so I'm going to give you a Golden Girls example. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready, Betty.
Picture it. 1986. A high school student needs to get a summer job living in Marlboro, New Jersey. That would be me. And I needed to get a summer job to make money, just like most high school students. And we had this family friend named Dave who had this revolutionary idea. You ready? It was pickup and delivery dry cleaning, the transportation. Now, Dave didn't own a dry cleaning store. He just said, I think there's an opportunity here. I think people find it to be a hardship to take their dirty clothes to the dry cleaners and pick them up when they're clean. Now, Marlboro, New Jersey, if you're not familiar with it, is almost the midpoint between Manhattan and New York City and Philadelphia. 1986, people didn't dress like you and I are today. They wore suits. So a dry cleaning was a necessity back in those times. And because of the proximity, so it was like an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to Manhattan or Philadelphia. A lot of people from Marlboro commuted to one of those cities. So here's my question, Doug. Do you think people would be willing to pay more to have that service? Because Dave didn't own a dry cleaning store, so it wasn't like he could include it or offer a discount. It was a cost on top of that.
Well, I know the answer, but I read the book.
You know the answer.
But I know the answer.
And if you're thinking about this as you're watching the interview, the answer is some people. Mm-hmm. Some people. So those who worked locally or didn't dress in business attire or had someone at home that could take the clothes to and fro, they thought we were nuts. Why would anybody ever pay to have their dry cleaning picked up and delivered back? But those who worked in Manhattan, those who worked in Philadelphia, they thought it was brilliant. Some even wish they had come up with the idea themselves. And so at a very young age, I developed a passion for understanding who will perceive meaningful value in what you're selling. See, if I spent all summer, because my summer job, by the way, was selling the service and as the transportation guy, I was the one taking the clothes to and fro. And if I spent my time going after prospects who work locally or had somebody that could take their clothes to and fro or didn't dress in a business suit for work, the business would have tanked. I would have made no money that summer. But we very quickly recognized who perceives meaningful value in that service, which is those who are commuting a long distance, wearing a business suit, and didn't have someone to take their clothes to and fro. So we focused on that. And today I'm just as passionate about that subject as I ever was. There's content in sales differentiation as well as in Sell Different on putting together what I call your target client profile. Now you may be thinking, oh, you mean the ideal client profile. I do not. I refer to it as a target client profile, and it's not a nomenclature thing. See, when you say ideal client profile, what you're saying to salespeople is if all the stars were to align, this is the business we'd love to have. It's almost like a lottery ticket. A target client profile says this is who will perceive meaningful value in what we offer. And every selling minute of every day should be invested in the pursuit of those opportunities. Now, I've got a freebie for you, Doug. If you
All right, lay it on me. Lay it on me.
If you go to targetclientprofile.com, very tough URL to remember, targetclientprofile.com.
We'll put the link up. We'll put it up there as visual.
Perfect. You can actually download the worksheet. There's 9 components to that profile. You can download that worksheet so that you have that laser focus on the deals to pursue.
What I like about the dry clean story is you kept, and it's outlined in your latest 2 books, and it's probably in your other books as well, which I have not read. Meaningful value at the price you want. It's going to cost more for the dry clean, but if I'm in money-making Manhattan, right, and I want convenience, I'm going to pay the price because it's nice and it's going to work for me. So it's, winning deals at the prices you want or meaningful value. That's the blueprint for this book. That's one of the many takeaways. Now, there's something that I want to talk about too. You had a chapter dedicated to a strategy, a tactic on follow-ups through email recap. You said 99.999. Okay, I get the number here, and yes. I get that, but I find it hard to believe that salespeople from meetings aren't following up with recaps. Now, what I love about you talked about it, but in the book you strategize on how to bullet point that email. I like books that tell and show me how, and you do that. So let's talk a little bit about that recap, and I got a little spin on that as well.
Absolutely. Have you ever heard the name Herman Ebbinghaus? Okay, late 1800s, he put together what's called the forgetting curve, and you can Google this and look it up. So people forget 50% of what they've learned within 24 hours and remember less than 10% a week later. So here's the flaw that so many salespeople have. You have this great discovery meeting. You spend an hour with them, and it was one of the most incredible meetings ever. You positioned your differentiators. They ate them up. You've got action items. They've got action items. The deal's so good you can taste it. And as you close out a Zoom or head back to your car, it plays in your head like your favorite movie. For me, that would be Caddyshack. And here's the flaw. We think they remember that meeting just as vividly as we do. It doesn't dawn on us that after our meeting, they had 7 other meetings, 120 emails, 16 voicemail messages, each one of them layering on top of our meeting, making it a distant memory. And you referenced the percentage I put in the book. 99.999% of salespeople miss out on that opportunity. I was actually conservative. It's even bigger than that. I have yet to find a salesperson who every single discovery meeting sends a recap email. Haven't done it yet. I've found, well, once in a while I send a little something or I send them a thank you note, a structured recap email that has 5 sections to it. Your objectives, what it is they said that they want to accomplish, what their pains, their challenges are, and use their words and expressions so that their reading is going, yeah, he heard me. How we can help. An opportunity in writing to remind them of those meaningful differentiators that you positioned. My action items, what I said I'm going to do, your action items, what they said they're going to do, and our agreed upon next step. You know, we talk about the importance, when we talk about differentiating how we sell, making people feel special. There's no CRM on the planet that's going to produce that for you. You got to write it. It'll take you about 10, maybe even 15 minutes to do it.
Timing of essence, making that immediate recap immediately, why it's fresh in their head.
Absolutely.
Personalization's key. Don't be too salesy. You mentioned that in there. So I'm a video guy. I leverage video to sell. That's my thing. So when I saw that video email thing, tying it back to virtual selling, I would take it to another level if it's structured right, having a video email response with the targeted text. Because if you want to sell different, even something more unique, if it doesn't come off too salesy, and that's kind of where I struggle with, because I want to hit the recap. I do personal video all the time. I do that more, but I multi-channel with text, audio, and everything else.
Yeah. Adding
a video follow-up component, is that something that, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great addition. I would still have the narrative, and here's why. First of all, you may not want to have the audio playing in your office, right? You just want to
absolutely.
read it.
The text has got to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you have both, that's great. And now here's the thing. We know studies show that 6.8 people are involved in the typical business-to-business decision-making process. Well, you met with one. You write this email, create that video in such a way that it can be shared with the other decision influencers, so they're brought up to speed and get just as excited as the person you met with about the opportunity that you're offering.
A collaborative video proposal. Send that proposal to every decision maker so they get the same story.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Lee, we've talked a little bit about virtual and video. I want to send it back to my video co-host in Studio V. Vonda's got something to say. 15 seconds and we'll be right back.
Thanks, Doug. We are living in a virtual business world. Virtual selling and video marketing are on the rise. Communicating socially online is fine, but there might be an opportunity to collaborate further. By building on your social proof visually. In layman's terms, creating visual story selling content. Thanks again for connecting and social watching.
Thanks, Vonda. And yes, I'm all about the virtual selling video component, standing out and selling different. One thing that you have, Lee, that I love is you've got your sales differentiation video moments, Lee's lessons. Can you talk a little bit about some other great resources that you're doing from a video angle and from text?
Absolutely. So anybody that buys the book Sell Different, if you go to selldifferentbook.com, you can sign up for the video series that I've developed. Every week for a year, you'll get an email with a link to a video to help you implement what you read, as well as I share strategies that are not in either of those books. So selldifferentbook.com, wherever you buy the book, go there and you can get those videos. The other thing that you reference, and this is available to everyone, you know, I've had clients over the years say, boy, I love that message. I wish it was on a poster, a one-pager that I could share with my salespeople. So I've created something called Lee's Lessons. And if you go to Lee's Lesson, believe it or not, I couldn't get the plural, leeslesson.com, you'll see, I think there's 60 something up there. There'll be 100 when I'm done loading them all. And you can very quickly go there, click on the eyeball, read it, download it, print it, and you can even share it on social media if you really like it.
I love all the resources. In fact, I get the newsletter as well. And speaking of resources, you've got to go out, get this book and other books by Lee's. Got the t-shirt, got the book. A wealth of information here.
Thank you.
And I love the fact that you're constantly putting out new content. Speaking of that, you've written 6 books. The migration from sales differentiation to sell different, there was a kind of a segue into those. What's on the works right now? Can you disclose any more stories or books?
I'm in discussion right now with HarperCollins on a new book, focused specifically on discovery. If my books and tons of sales books touch upon discovery, but if you look for one, I challenge you to find it, because I haven't, nor could my publisher, a book solely dedicated to discovery. So that's what's in the works right now. Stay tuned.
I definitely will get the book, read it cover to cover, and do a video book review as always. Lee,
awesome.
Are there any parting shots that you would like to leave for our audience?
Well, if they want to get a taste of Sell Different, that same website, selldifferentbook.com, you can download the first chapter either as an audio. So if you like audiobooks, you can listen to the audio, or you can download the first chapter to read.
And there you have it. Lee Salz, check out his work. Tons of books, tons of content. Sell different, because the competition is hard out there. And how do you make that pivot today in business to sell different, to get those deals at the prices you want? Do I have it right, Lee? Meaningful value.
Win more
sell
deals
different.
at the prices you want. I even trademarked it. That's how passionate I am about the topic.
Lee, thank you so much. And definitely
you.
check out Lee Salz. And I look forward to future content and projects from Lee. Go to his website, follow him on LinkedIn, read the books, Lee's lessons, and a whole lot more. Sell different.